Now, Carol was invited to a Halloween party in an abandoned house. Her friends asked if she was up for a challenge, and she said yes. Soon enough, she was locked inside a room. In this room, there was one door and 3 light switches next to it. Behind the door was an empty closet with nothing but a light bulb. Her task was to figure out which switch controls the light bulb inside the closet. She could flip the switches in whatever way she wanted, but once she opened the door, she couldn't touch the switches anymore. After some minutes of thinking, she was able to get it right. How did Carol do it? Okay, let's go step by step. She flipped switch number 1 and then waited a few minutes. She flipped it back to off and then immediately flipped switch number 2. Then she opened the door and checked the light. The bulb was off, so she discovered that it wasn't switch number 2 that controlled the light. So she decided to touch the bulb to test if it was hot or cold. If the bulb had been cold, that would have meant that switch number 3 controlled it. But the bulb was hot, so that meant that switch number 1 controlled 1. Way to go, Carol! To get back to the party, Carol had to solve another riddle. There were 2 hourglasses in front of her. One hourglass measures 7 minutes, and the other one measures 4 minutes. She needed to time 9 minutes using both hourglasses. How could she do it? First, she turned both hourglasses at the same time. By the time the 4-minute glass finished, there were still 3 minutes left on the other one. She flipped the 4-minute glass again. When the 7-minute glass was empty, there was 1 minute left on the other glass. And once the 4-minute glass emptied again, there was 1 minute's worth of sand at the bottom half of the 7-minute timer. She flipped it over again, so there was 1 minute worth of sand on the top of the glass. And when the 7-minute timer finally emptied again, 9 minutes elapsed in total. Now look at this party scene. Everyone is dancing in their Halloween costumes and having an enjoyable time. You've been told that one of these people is a real vampire. Can you figure out who it is? Let's see. The guy on the left is drinking something red, but he has a shadow, so he can't be a real vampire. The second lady looks creepy, could be her, but if you look closely at the mirror on the wall, you'll see her reflection, so it can't be her. Ah, and we can also see the reflection of the fourth guy in the mirror. This only leaves one lady left. She must be the real vampire. Anna sat down to watch her favorite TV show. She made some popcorn, turned on the TV, and nestled comfortably to binge-watch an entire season. Her cat Pepper sat down next to her, but after 5 minutes of screen time, Anna suddenly passed out. Look at the image. Can you guess what happened there? Anna's cat Pepper got scared with a loud thump that came from the TV. It jumped on top of Anna and it scared the life out of her. That's why she passed out. Brendan was camping alone in a remote location. He left his campsite and hiked 3 miles south. Then he turned east and hiked for another 3 miles. After that, he turned north and hiked for another 3 miles. After walking 9 miles, he was back to the exact same point from where he had left off. Plus, he got there just in time to find a bear trying to open his tent and steal his food. Look at the image. Can you guess the only place in the world where Brendan could be right now? It's the North Pole. That's the only place where you can hike for 3 miles south, east, and north and end up exactly where you left off. Fraser bought a cozy home in Vancouver. On a sunny day, he decided to take his dog out for a walk. When he let his dog off the leash, it ran extremely far away from him. At some point, the dog was opposite him across a huge lake. Fraser called his dog, who managed to cross safely to the other side of the lake without getting wet or using a boat. Can you guess how the dog managed to do it? Well, that's a trick question, but the dog could easily cross the lake since it was frozen. Your best friend invited you for brunch at a place called Wally's World. As soon as you arrive there, the hostess tells you that you need to solve a riddle to get inside. She tells us that there is only one rule at Wally's World. Over there is pizza with cheese, but no pizza with sausage. There is pepper, but no salt. There is a door, yet no entrance or exit. With this information, can you guess what the law is? Everything in Wally's World must contain double letters. So things such as pizza, pepper, and cheese are allowed inside. Whew! That sure wasn't obvious, huh? On a snowy winter afternoon, Dr. Brown was resting in front of the fireplace. Suddenly, somebody threw a snowball at his window. The hit was so strong that the glass shattered. Dr. Brown stood up just in time to see 3 neighborhood boys running away. They were brothers with the names John Smith, Mark Smith, and Dave Smith. The next day, a paper note was left on Dr. Brown's door. There it was written, a question mark, then Smith. He threw the snowball. Dr. Brown knew immediately which brother had done it. Can you figure it out too? It was Mark. You see, the note said, question mark Smith. He threw the snowball. But the boys were clever and put a question mark instead to test Dr. Brown's detective abilities. Henry was backpacking through Brazil by himself. One evening at around 8 p.m., he got very hungry and decided to look for a cozy restaurant to have some dinner. He walked into a traditional restaurant only to find a customer and a waiter arguing over something. The customer said that he had ordered clam soup, while the waiter was saying he had only ordered a cup of tea. Henry saw something that immediately showed him who was lying. Can you find out too? The customer is lying. Behind him, there's a huge sign that says the restaurant only serves soup from 1 to 4 p.m. Since it was 8 p.m. in the evening, the waiter would have never accepted the customer's order in the first place. Cheryl ran into her house extremely worried. I set off as soon as I heard the news, she told the police officer. I was at my parents' house in another town. What's happened to my husband? Well, the police said, somebody hurt Mr. Moffat, and he ended up in the hospital. He's going to be okay, but we still need to find out who did this to him. The police officer has questioned 3 suspects so far. Mr. Moffat's secretary said, I was sent to visit Mr. Moffat's business partner in the morning. Some important documents needed signatures. The cook said, I haven't left the kitchen today. Mr. Moffat wanted me to prepare a meal for him and his wife. The housekeeper said, I didn't hear anything today. I was doing some household chores all day long. After that, I was so tired, I decided to take a nap. The police officer realized who the culprit was in no time. Can you figure out who did it? It was the cook. Mr. Moffat didn't ask him to cook anything for his wife, since she had been out of town all along. That's it for today. So hey, if you pacified your curiosity, then give the video a like and share it with your friends. Or if you want more, just click on these videos and stay on the bright side.